With the impeachment inquiry dominating the headlines, we wanted to take a look at what happened in the markets last week once it was announced, and also the last two times that impeachment entered the news cycle.
All four of the major U.S. indexes were negative last week, with the Dow Jones down about 0.5%, the S&P 500 was down 1%, the NASDAQ was down just over 2%, and the Russell 2000 was down the most, over 2.5%. And now the Russell's still lagging, only up about 12% for the year. Foreign and emerging markets were both negative last week as well, with foreign stocks down a little bit over 0.5%, while emerging market stocks were down almost 2%, and now the emerging markets only positive over 6% for the year. We're looking at a chart of the S&P 500 just from last week, as investors seem to be more and more concerned about what might happen in the markets due to these impeachment talks. So I wanted to take a look at the timeline from when the first piece of news came out about these impeachment talks through the end of the close on Friday. So first off, on Tuesday morning, we started to see rumors of the impeachment talks, and there were also more news on the US and China tariff wars. And at this point, the market started to sell off. Now, Tuesday after the market closed, around 5 p.m., is when the official impeachment announcement happened from Nancy Pelosi. So from there, we would have thought that the markets would have sold off after that official announcement, but on Wednesday and Thursday, the S&P 500 is actually net positive. Then on Friday, the market sold off again, but that was mainly due to President Trump threatening to delist Chinese companies from US exchanges and to limit US investments in China. So the end result, the markets ended up pretty much flat from the time that the impeachment proceedings were officially announced through the end of Friday. Now I know that's a very short time frame to look at, but what it seems like to us is that investors are still more worried about the US and China trade talks than they are the impeachment proceedings, for now.
This week in the news, we wanted to take a look back at the last two times that our country went through impeachment proceedings. Now, it's important to note that we don't think that this impeachment inquiry is going to end up going anywhere, but if it does, we wanted to make sure that we provided the information to you as to what happened the last two times that this happened. Now, the first time that we dealt with this was during the Nixon administration, back in 1973 and 1974. Now, it's important to note that we were already in a bear market and also in an economic recession, along with having an oil crisis on hand. And when the impeachment proceedings were announced, from then the market sold off by 33%. Now, the second time that we went through this was during the second term of Bill Clinton's administration. And during that time, the stock market actually was exactly the opposite as to what happened during the last one, and it rallied 27%. Now, during that time, we had a very strong economy. Unemployment was around 4.5% and 4%, and we had the beginning of the tech bubble coming. So if we're looking back at these two examples, the big difference is the underlying economy, which right now remains strong. As the US consumer is still driving it, unemployment remains low, and interest rates are continuing to drop. Now, what's important to focus on during this time is the economy, not if the impeachment inquiry ends up being an impeachment proceeding.
For the week coming up, we have the September jobs report that comes out on Friday, and we'll obviously be keeping close eyes on the impeachment inquiries for any new developments.
Thanks for watching. We really appreciate the support. As always, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter at Prospective Wealth Planning. See you next week.